Welcome back to Run of Show, the podcast where we celebrate the people, businesses, and events that make our community special. I'm Tanya, your host, and today we're diving into an inspiring conversation with Coach Glenn McDuffy, a seasoned business coach, consultant, and speaker with over 24 years of experience helping entrepreneurs grow and succeed. We'll hear all about his journey, the events that have shaped his career, and the lessons he's learned along the way, including one unforgettable experience walking on hot coals at a Tony Robbins conference. And a special thank you to this season's title sponsor, Roxy, and her band, Password Reset. Her company, Crystal Soundstage Productions, is your go-to for live sound, production support, and creating unforgettable experiences at your events. I appreciate you so much. Let's jump in. First, I'd like to thank you for taking the time out to be with me today. And I really love this background.
Absolutely, Tanya. It's great to support you in any way that I can.
Thank you. And I'm really looking forward to sharing some of your stories because you are a good storyteller and you've got some good ones. You've died like 3 times, right? 4. Okay, well, 4 times.
Well,
not almost died, but died 4 times.
They've had to bring me back 4
Well,
times.
let's start with, where are you from? You're not from Pensacola. You're from California?
Yeah, I grew up in a small mountain town in Northern California, as far north as you can go, a little farming town. All that was there was logging and agriculture.
Wairika, right?
Wairika, yeah, not Eureka, not the one on the coast, the last town you go through before you go into Oregon.
Okay.
And the population was 5,000 back then, it's 5,000 today. I mean, gosh. It was a great place to grow up as far as the quality of life. I mean, we had the freshest water in the world because of the mountains and air and all of that. You didn't realize it back then, but your food, you ate what you killed or grew, you know. It was it was a great place to grow up, but it was also a small town.
A small town.
Yeah.
And you had your family, you have sisters?
Yeah, I have two older sisters.
Right,
two older sisters. I had a younger brother who perished in the first
first time you
accident.
died.
I was killed in, and he was 13, I was 15, but yeah, still have my mother and 2 older sisters still live out there, and because of the fires that happened a few years ago in Southern Oregon, they lost their home.
Oh my goodness.
Now they all 3 have to live together, and so it's kind of an interesting dynamic.
Right.
But no, they're the most important women in my life. Call them every Sunday. And
Absolutely.
Check in.
That's good. Yeah, you call them and you spend every Sunday with your daughter that's nearby.
Exactly.
Yeah,
she's just 40 minutes away. She's blessed me with grandkids.
I love that. How many grandkids do you have?
I've got, 3 there and then 2 up in Michigan, so I've got 5 total.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you're a pretty good-looking grandpa, I tell you what.
Well, I've had a lot of work done. Had to put it back together a few times.
Now, you've done a lot of different things. You one of the times you died was Alaska. You were there doing that. What's your general field that you're in now?
Well, I've always been a business coach.
Right.
I mean, you've heard the story, but we'll share. I started my first business when I was 6 years old.
Right.
It wasn't a lemonade stand. What happened is I wanted that blue bike in the window at the hardware store. And my dad said, "We want that bike, go get a job and earn the money to buy it." And I'm like, "Dude, I'm 6 years old, What am I going to do at 6 years old?" He says, "Well, I get my hair cut every Saturday." This was back in the day of the barbershop when all the men went to the barbershops and played checkers and chess and smoked cigars and all of that. And this was back before Nike, I think Converse hadn't even been invented yet.
Really?
I mean, men wore dress shoes for everything. Dress shoes or boots. Certainly in that town, changed the oil, mow the lawn, whatever. They were always in their dress shoes or boots.
Like in the movies.
So they're sitting there in the chair. So he helped me build the shoe shine kit. He loaned me the money for the polish. I had my first business loan at 6 years old. And then my mom gave me some rags. He'd take me down there every Saturday morning and set me in the chair. And you're sitting in the chair getting your hair cut. You're not going to tell me no.
Right.
I only charged 50 cents. I think we called it 2 bits back then or something. But,
2 bits.
And then they'd tip me and like that. And it just went so well. And then that bike came a lot faster than I thought it would because nobody could tell me no.
Right.
And then after that, I just wanted stuff. And so I had to keep coming up with these companies that would make me enough money to get what I wanted, And after I did that for a couple of years, actually at about 8 years old, friends and family started going, "Wow, how'd you do that?" "Oh, it's really easy. Let me show you." And so I started showing them how to do what they, to do a business to get what they wanted.
The business coach
And then they
was
started calling me Coach.
Right.
8 years old, I've been called Coach,
Right.
And then it's just stuck with me for people that knew me. And then it became a brand eventually, and So that's how it originated, was with that process.
Yeah, I love that story, because that's what I'm finding as I'm doing these interviews with my guests, that those who are really successful, it's just part of who they are. It's part of their story. They are the face of their thing, and they're passionate about it.
Right.
What makes you passionate about it?
Helping other people.
Helping other people.
Because of how blessed I am to be back here after 4 times trying to take myself out. Well, not trying to take.
Well, the universe trying to
I just
test you.
My legacy. I want my legacy to be, when I'm gone. Did you ever know Coach Glenn? Oh yeah, I knew him, and my life was better because I did.
Right.
That's my legacy that I want to leave behind. And so, the more people I can help, the happier I am, the more passionate I am about it.
Right. Now, I know, because we're friends, I know a bunch of your stories, and I don't know what you're comfortable sharing on the podcast, but like Alaska and that fiasco, the island and that whole thing, and
yeah, which one you want?
Well, give me a nutshell version of your favorite.
Right. Well,
to tell. Well, I know it was a bad situation, so it's not really a favorite.
Well, the one that'll roll kind of into why I'm here in Pensacola.
Good.
So, San Diego, as soon as I got old enough, and after I got my first bachelor's degree, I've got more degrees than a thermometer. I still know what I want to do when I grow up, but my youngest daughter says, "You're never going to grow up, Dad." And I'm like, "Oh, cool. I don't have to worry about it." But without going into the extreme details, I've got degrees in finance and international finance and a PhD and all those things. But and San Diego was home after I got my first bachelor's degree up in Southern Oregon at Southern Oregon University. I moved to San Diego and made that home, and got into investments there big time, and did syndications and stuff, and was really having a great time, raising lots of money, doing lots of things in the financial industry, and still coaching people in that industry, how to do things. And then San Diego just got crazy. I mean, it's a beautiful place to vacation. You do not want to live there.
No.
Oh God. Anytime I left my home, I was standing in line. If I was going to drop off laundry, I'm standing in line for an hour. Go to the grocery store, standing in line for an hour. And that was after you waited forever in traffic. The quality of life just tanked.
Right.
And so I said, I got to get out of here. Well, one of my clients builds waste energy power plants all over the world. And he called me when I was just finishing up a syndication I was working on in San Diego, which is just a fancy word for raising money for a project. And he calls me, "Hey, we're going to do one of our power plants on a Caribbean island." I said, "Oh, that's great, Bill. Why are you calling me?" He says, "Well, before we can finish the negotiations on this power plant, an owner of the company has to become a resident of the island."
Oh.
Again, why are you calling me, Bill? He says, "Well, we're going to make you a 10% owner of the company, and you're going to go down and finish the negotiations on the..." Oh, who do I have to kill?
Right.
Wow, it's an $80 million power plant. I can do that math in my head. And he said, "Well, it's this island called St. Croix. It's in the U.S. Virgin Islands." Okay, well, I hadn't been there. I've been to a lot of islands because I do a lot of international investments.
Right.
And we have, obviously, accounts all over the world, but I hadn't been to St. Croix. I've been to St. Thomas. I've been to St. John. All right. I said, "What I got to do?" He says, "You got to go down there and be boots on the ground for 365 days. And then after you become a resident, they'll do a background check on you, and if you're not hiding from the law, then you get a residency, then you finish the negotiations with this corrupt government."
Oh, gosh.
Okay, sounds easy enough. So
sure.
Without even looking, I just pack up, I've done with San Diego, moved to this island, and the first year is like a perpetual vacation, and we'll pay for your transportation, housing, you got to get a real job. So I was a business coach down there. You had all these companies, people from expatriates there that had gone down and set up businesses to serve the locals. And so it was really cool. I got to know the who's who very quickly on this island, and was helping them.
How big was the island?
It's 22 miles long and 7 miles wide.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it has every climate in the world. It has peaks that have snow on them, and it has deserts on that island. Yeah. You can watch the sunrise at one end of the island, watch that same sunset at the other end.
Oh, wow.
It sounds wow. And when you're there on vacation, it's a wow.
Yeah.
And then after I got my residency, I went to this government and I said, "Here's the thing. My company wants to build you a waste energy power plant. 2 biggest problems any island has is wasted power. We're going to build this $80 million power plant. It's going to burn all of your municipal solid waste, all of your tires, your carpet, your medical waste, all goes into this incinerator. And the technology is so advanced, the only thing that comes out of this power plant is sterile ash out of the tailpipe that farmers can use to aerate the soil. and mineral water out of the smokestack that you can actually bottle and drink.
Oh, wow.
And then I'm going to be able to produce power at 1/3 of what it's costing you to make it with the diesel engines you installed in the 1960s that burned dark crude from Venezuela, spewing toxic fumes out of the smokestack in it. And we're going to build it, own it, operate it for 20 years. I'm going to create 120 jobs inside the plant, 400 jobs outside the plant. And then in 20 years, you give me $1 and we'll have a succession plan that's yours. That's my proposal.
Who wouldn't want that deal? Who wouldn't want that deal?
It's kind of like, hello, you know. So the first government official went, well, gosh, that sounds like a great plan, but you got to meet with Tanya. Tanya is in charge of the protected butterfly that's on that land that you want to build it on. And you got to meet with Tanya's on vacation for 3 weeks, but when Tanya gets back, you got to meet with Tanya. So sit around, wait. While I'm waiting, the locals are hating me. I mean, I was a minority in a third world country. I traveled the world for 22 years and never been a minority in a third world country.
Right.
And they did not want me there. I had two locals, the locals are called Crusians, walk up to me in daylight and look me in the eye and say, if I ever catch you out after dark, you will not make it home.
Whoa.
Like, hello, I'm here to help. No, you're not.
That's like from a bad, scary movie.
You're a white guy from the States here to explore this like every white guy since Columbus has. You know? I'm like, okay. So I could not leave my condo after dark unless I went out with a group, you know. So it wasn't pleasant by any stretch, because everywhere you went, the passive-aggressive behavior, they'd cut you off in lines, they would charge you double what they'd charge everybody else. It just, anyway, yeah, it was...
Nightmare.
Yeah. Power would go out every day, phones would go out every day, you know, hurricane once a month, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, you live here? Anyway, so I wait for Tony to get back. Tony said, okay, but that stamp's $150. Oh, all right. $150, get the stamp. Now you got to meet with Bill. Bill's in charge of the protected lizard, and he's on vacation, but when he gets back in 3 weeks, you got to meet with Bill.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, man. So I wait 3 weeks. Okay, Bill says, okay, that stamp's $250. Oh, all right, here, stamp. They did this to me, Tanya, for 3 years. 3 years, they made up all this stuff to just try and get me to leave, basically, you know. Nothing over $500, because that would have set off alarms. Just nickel and dime me, you know.
Right.
Oh my gosh, you know, this is crazy. Finally, I ran out of stuff to make up with on this. So what I needed was the governor's signature on the power purchase agreement to guarantee they would purchase that power after we produced it for my financing to kick in. We had equipment and personnel ready to go, come over to the island and go. It's an 18-month build, which I was going to be the project manager on it. Then after 18 months, I'm done. Take my 10% of $80 million.
Wonderful.
Yeah, that's why I hung in there all this time.
Yeah.
Well, the gatekeeper for the governor is the lieutenant governor. And I get this call one day, and this lieutenant governor says, be at my house tonight, 7 o'clock. I said, yeah, I can't go out after dark. I'll send a car. I said, oh, okay, let me tell you where I live. He said, I know where you live. So, whoa, okay. All right. He said, be out front, 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
So I'm out in front of my condo at 7 o'clock, and this Toyota Camry comes screeching in front of me, and these two machine gun strapped security guards bounce out of the back. And I'm walking around the back of the car to get up in the passenger seat, and they said, no, you're in the back. And I get in the back, and then they got in the back with me, and they're poking me with their machine guns on the way to this guy's house. Okay, this isn't starting well. And I'm like, all right. And
this is just like from Robert Langdon Chronicles.
It's crazy when you talk about it now. I mean, at the time, it was just like, okay, if this is what I got to do, you know. So we get to the lieutenant governor's house, and we go into his den, and we're 3 beers into it. All right, and I've got the blueprints on the wall. I've got all the jobs I'm going to create, the 120 jobs inside the plant, 400 jobs outside the plant, everything, all up there, taped to the wall and stuff. And Mr. McDuffy, this is going to be a great project. It's good for the island, good for the people of St. Croix. We need to have this happen right away. Great. When can I get the governor's signature on that power purchase agreement? Well, you know, there are fees associated with this kind of a project. So I'm very well, look at all those stamps I bought. Right. I know all about your fee structure.
Yeah.
No, Mr. McDuffy. He takes a piece of paper and writes a 3 with 6 zeros after it.
Oh, my gosh.
Slides that across the desk and says, when you're ready, I'll tell you where to deposit that money.
Oh, my goodness.
I said, dude, you are under the U.S. flag.
Yeah.
They're U.S. territory.
Right.
There's a thing called the RICO Act that I had to memorize before I got there. I said, if I pay you that fee, that bribe, or whatever you want to call it, as the project promoter, I go to jail for 8 years. Not you get to keep the money. I go to jail for 8 years. I said, I am not going to jail for 8 years to build you a power plant.
Oh, gosh.
And he says, well, Mr. McDuffy, that's how we do business here in the Virgin Islands.
Yeah.
If you don't want to do business with us, pack up your shit and get off my island.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay, my men will take you home.
Wow.
Meeting over.
Yeah.
I mean, so, I went home and started packing.
Yeah.
When the lieutenant governor says, get off his island,
Yeah.
Oh, how much time do I have?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, my gosh.
And so I didn't want to go back to San Diego. My daughter was in Daphne. She's blessed me with 3 grandkids. And talking to her, I said, where should I go? She said, well, Dad, since you can basically live anywhere to do what you do as a business coach, why would you want to visit your grandkids once a year when you could be part of their lives growing up?
Yes.
I said, kind of hard to argue with that. Why don't you find some place around here? Well, I didn't want to be in Alabama, but I knew Pensacola because I'd been here on business. And I knew the SBDC and I knew the university and I had contacts there. And I just sent an email to the president of the SBDC and the dean of the College of Business and said, hey, if I come to Pensacola, you got a spot for me? Hey, you get to Pensacola, we'll find a spot for you.
Right.
And that was 10 years ago, and here I am.
Here you are.
This is it. I'm not going to, this is home. Yeah, this is
Pensacola
everything
is
San
amazing.
Diego was 30 years ago,
Yeah.
So, and you see my backyard.
I know,
so,
right? This is the best view.
So that's the long version of how I ended up in Pensacola.
That was a really good story.
It kind of spins into it,
Yeah. And okay, now we know who you are and why you're here. Now, we met because of networking and through the chamber. And so events are in your wheelhouse. So I want to get into some of those stories.
Yeah.
Now, before we get to the good story, let's talk about some of the struggles you've had doing events. Have you had events yourself that you had to plan and execute, or have you been just guest at events?
Yeah, well, one of my passions is being a professional speaker. And I traveled the world for 22 years. As a business coach and a professional speaker, and would have seminars, sometimes as small as 4, as large as 14,000.
14,000.
Yeah. Las Vegas, Nevada, MGM Grand. It was the National Association of Security Dealers, and I was the keynote speaker for their Saturday night formal dinner.
Oh gosh.
MGM Grand with 14,000 people in the audience.
Yeah.
And
were you nervous?
No, I've
but
done,
you're a professional speaker.
I've done over 4,000 live presentations in 5 countries.
Now,
so.
Were you always so confident?
No. Oh gosh, no.
How did you get that confidence? Just doing it, or are there tricks?
You get there. Well, it's not tricks. It's realizing that the audience doesn't know when you mess up. Only you know when you mess up. And so unless you make the mistake, oh, I'm so sorry, I forgot what it was, whatever. There are some tools and techniques, and there are some excellent speaker trainers, and I don't know if I can mention names.
Yes.
But, here in town we have Daniel Pennington, and he's a superstar.
Yeah.
You can get over any kind of stage fright with Daniel, and he'll make you, he is incredible.
He is. He's got a couple of books out, and he was a guest on a previous podcast.
Yeah. And him and I are good buddies, and he'll tell you, if you don't tell the audience, they won't know. And there are some tricks, like when you lose your place in your notes, don't be fiddling with your notes. They call it taking a drink of your notes. And so take a drink of your water while you're looking for where you're at, and then they don't know you got lost, type of thing. Whatever. Never read. There's a lot of stuff that you learn. Toastmasters, I was a past president of Toastmasters.
Okay.
And they're a great place to go and practice your skills and your techniques and develop it. And so your question was whether I was a planner. All of those events were at some type of venue where I had to take responsibility for making sure everything was the way I needed it to be, so that my presentation was going to be correct. So contact the venue, tell them what you needed, what kind of a setup, and then you always, always, always check the venue before the event. Never, ever show up unprepared. So you go there. There's always last minute changes, and so you make sure that all that's done, and make sure that everything's right before you show up. Because if you show up and you're not ready and you're running around trying to make the room, you're going to be discombobulated.
Right.
I'd much rather be combobulated than discombobulated, So I want to start out being combobulated.
Right.
So you make sure everything's right. Make sure your AV's working, all of that. You check everything, the lights, everything. And so, I've done that. And then the bigger events, the fundraisers and stuff, of course, didn't have anything to do with the 14,000, which, by the way, my claim to fame on that 14,000, I got a standing ovation.
Oh, gosh.
You've seen my No If Only presentation, and I did
one.
the 28-minute version of that.
We should put a link to that in the show notes, your If Only video.
Happy to do it, and got a standing ovation for 14,000. Nothing more humbling than that.
Right.
You don't know how to react to that, So I don't know how I'm going to beat that. I need a stadium, I guess. But and there are bigger events, like we just had with the Center for Independent Living and Disability Resource Center. We had their annual fundraiser,
We had the Sapphire Soiree, which was really fun.
My advice to people when they're doing an event, if it's a small event that you can control, learn some skills from event planners or somebody like you, But my real advice to people, if you're going to do an event that's important, hire an event planner.
Right.
I'm not going to, you can do your own accounting.
Right.
Sure. You can cut your own hair, but you're not going to get the long-term results you're looking for. So don't try and stay in your lane. Do what you're good at, and then get a professional.
Right.
You wouldn't try and fly a plane.
Right.
It's just the fact that you would try to put on this fundraiser with 200 people in the room, just with the staff they have, for pulling away from what they're supposed to be doing to try and plan it. Yeah, that's just not good business.
Right.
Get an expert in there to plan it for you.
Well, I always say too, for people who really are those A types that have to be in control of everything, and you want to do everything, do it. But you can hire a planner for the day of. Someone that can touch base with you throughout the planning process to make sure that they're on the right page. That way you can focus on the event and not the run of show.
Yeah.
And the things that have to happen. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what you need to do.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Run of Show. A special thank you again to our season's title sponsor, Roxy. Her band, Password Reset, and her company, Crystal Soundstage Productions, is the team you can count on for live sound, production support, and unforgettable experiences at your events. You can find Run of Show on all of your favorite podcast platforms, so be sure to like, subscribe, and share. It truly helps the channel grow. Now, let's get back to our conversation with Coach Glenn. Tell me about a time when things didn't go so well for you in your process.
Well, let me see. Let me pick one. There's that one and that one. And that one. Actually, the one that comes to mind, I was, I don't remember what country, or it doesn't matter. It's not part of the story, but I was the event was happening at a golf course in their clubhouse. And so I go in, it's beautiful, all set up. I mean, the whole wall is windows. Now, windows are the enemy of any speaker, because where are people going to be looking all day, especially on a golf course, for crying out loud. So I go in and set it all up and close all the curtains, and then people come in and start opening them, and I'll go back and close them. So before I start, they're all closed. So I thought I had this handled. So this was an 8-hour program, probably 6 hours of talking time, but about 10 o'clock in the morning, I'm talking away, and all of a sudden the whole room, everybody's like, they couldn't hear me, and I'm hello, what the heck? And it was a weed eater.
A weed eater.
He was cutting the grass. I didn't hear the lawnmower, but he's coming up right underneath that window with the weed eater.
Oh my gosh!
How do you plan for that? You can't,
You can't plan, but the venue could plan for that.
Yeah, well, you would have thought, but see, how do you think? You can't think of everything,
detail,
know. So obviously, I couldned continue. So I just went over, took control, opened up the curtains, found the guy, pounded on the window until he looked at me, and I said, he turned it off, and I said, pointing to the people in the room, and go away. Yeah. He was fine with it. He went away. But that was probably the one that there's just no way to plan for that. But you've got to take control, you know.
Yeah.
And so that's one. The other one that comes to mind that you have no control over, I used to do a seminar. I was a hired speaker for several companies, and we were doing medical collection seminars. And when you're doing those kind of seminars, sometimes you get people upset. So to prepare you as a speaker with this company, we had to do riot mocks.
What?
Yeah, you didn't know when it was going to happen, but your audience that you're practicing on that are all part of the staff in the program, a riot would break out in your room, and you had to learn how to control a riot when the room erupted into a riot.
That's something that most people do not train for.
But hopefully you'll never have to train for it. Yeah.
In our society, it seems like that.
Now, you don't know. And there's many versions of that. Sometimes you get those people in the room that are just being disruptive, and you come up with creative. And of course, again, Daniel's awesome at this. Daniel Pennington will give you some, when somebody's just speaking out of turn, hey, I work alone, and stuff like that, and just control them, And
I work alone. I
say, if your cell phone goes off and you start talking, I'm going to stop, and we're all going to be listening to your call. Right. Just stuff like that. Just, don't point anybody out. But anyway, those are all some tricks of the trade that you can learn along the way.
Well, I'd say, as far as like the weed eater type thing, those things that happen, I don't call them mistakes or failures. What I call them are notes for next time.
Oh, man.
Because I guarantee that's something that you might ask the venue next time, or the venue might remember next time, well, we need to check the schedule of the maintenance people before.
Right.
Yeah. Notes for next time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The only thing that was always, it's got to be in the know. When you're in a public venue, like a hotel or something like that, I'm going to share with everybody that temperature control thing on the wall is attached to nothing. It does absolutely nothing. If you need the temperature in the room changed, you have got to check with housekeeping or catering or whoever has control of that.
That's a good tip.
It's not connected to anything. It's just there to give you the illusion of control of the temperature. Never. In all the venues I've been in all over the world, never is it attached to anything.
So you've been, at least the speaking and classes, you've done a lot of that. Tell me your favorite event and why was it so favorite?
Well, kind of got to go back to that standing ovation, that kind of pretty high on the list. I like events. What I like to do is I like to create the space in people's mind for that learning experience to take place. And I like to see the light bulbs go off. I like the aha moments, when you have those little zingers, those little things that when you're a speaker, you've forgotten what you didn't know. And so when you're up there in front of the room, you got to realize those people in the room don't know anything or very little about what you're teaching them.
Right.
And so it's important for you to go back and remember what you didn't know and go back to that place in your presentations. And so the most rewarding ones are when you see your audience go, that makes so much sense.
Tell me about this standing ovation. What was your topic?
It was my no if only presentation.
No if only presentation.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's
yeah, and I can do that in 2 minutes or 28 minutes depending on who I'm doing it with.
Right.
And I've done it here for the networking, and that was my first time I was killed, which was actually the biggest one. But
now that event, you said you were the keynote speaker.
Yeah.
What was the topic of the event itself?
Well, the details of that are that it was obviously it was the National Association of Security Dealers, so they were there for their national conference. It was a financial conference, and because that was the industry that I was in at the time, they had asked me to be the keynote speaker at this. What I didn't know is that I was following Tony Robbins. This is what I didn't.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man, I'm like, so he's up there doing his thing, Now Tony and I, at that time, I'd done all Tony's stuff. He's San Diego, I'm San Diego.
Right.
I won't say we were friends, but I've had dinner at his house with him, and back then his wife was married.
Yeah.
And he changes your life, no matter how much of him you can handle.
Right.
Incredible. He changed. I mean, I've walked on fire with Tony. I've done his ropes.
Wait. Tell me about the fire walking. And that's a good story.
That was the first thing we did. So I was working for, I was in investments again, and this company I was working for, the president of the company said, we're not on the leading edge of what we're doing, we're on the bleeding edge of what we're doing here. And so he was out there. So there were 3 of us in the C-suite and that were responsible for we were the rainmakers, if you will. And we were all the same age. We were in our mid-20s, and we're making more money than we should have been making at that age, but in San Diego, you're still not middle class. But in any case, we get this memo, and he says, I went to this presentation with this guy called Tony Robbins. He's going to be doing this thing called the Firewalk experience, and I want us all to do that. We come popping out of rocks. You're going to do that? I'm not walking on fire.
No.
What are you, crazy? A few days go by, we get a second memo. He says, I really believe this would be a great experience for the C-suite to experience this firewalk. Nope, my wife says I walk on fire, and I'm going to be single. That's one of the guys, and I'm not walking. I believe it was the third memo says, this is the CEO of the company, I strongly recommend you attend this firewalk experience. Looks like we're going.
Yeah.
So there's like 7 of us in the C-suite. We all go to this firewalk. Now, it was a 4-day experience. The first night, he introduces you to neurolinguistic programming. Then he introduces you to how powerful the 2 days of power, and then the Sunday one was all about living health. It was all about eating right and stuff like that. And then that Sunday night was the firewalk experience. And so what they did, you went out into the parking lot that was back in the day, and there was a dump truck had dumped this firewood, pile of firewood, and they'd put accelerants on it. You all were handed a book of matches. You went on, you stood in a circle around this big pile of firewood, and you all flicked matches onto this fire and lit this fire at the beginning of the night. Then when you went back in, and then he NLP'd you through that presentation talking about the firewalk. And what you didn't know is how it was empowering you in your subconscious mind with neuro-linguistic programming. And then, all right, let's go out. What they'd done is they'd taken the hot coals from that fire, and they'd created these 2 runways that were 4 feet wide and 14 feet long. Surrounded it with wet sod to keep it from spreading. And then you formed a line at the end of it. Now, if you chose not to, you were respected for knowing what's right for you. There was a pregnant woman that they wouldn't let walk. And then a couple others just said, that's not right for me. But you weren't shunned.
Right.
Okay, great. If you know what's right
That's
for you.
an extreme thing to do.
Rest you're lining up, and then either him or his assistant, you'd get up right up to the thing and said, do not look down. Actually, he would never tell you what not to do. He would say, look up.
Right.
That's part of communication too. It's amazing how often we tell people to do what we don't want them to do. So mind doesn't know the difference between a positive and negative command. Look up, and then you chant. And the chant was cool moss. So your mind's saying cool moss, cool moss, cool moss. That was what you chanted. You didn't look down. And now the temperature was, I mean, it would melt your polyester zipper if you had a polyester zipper on. You're in your bare feet, and you stop at the end of this runway of 14 feet of burning hot coals, and he looks in your eyes to see if you're ready. And he says, no, you're not ready. Go back to the end of the line and get ready. Yes, you're ready. And then you just start walking. Cool moss, cool moss, cool moss.
Is that the pace?
And you're walking, your normal pace, walking out. You feel the coals crunching under your feet. You can feel the heat under your feet. And cool moss, cool moss. When you get to the end, they stop you because you're not looking, you're looking up. And you wipe your feet off on the wet sod there. And then you walk away and you go, oh, man.
I can't believe I did that.
I can fly now. Let's fly. It's empowering. It was terrible. I mean, we were in investments, but at the end of the day, it's sales. But that was a big. Don't mess with us. We've walked on fire. You don't try and BS us. We've walked on fire. You got nothing on us.
That's what I was saying.
It's life-changing.
You were 20-something?
Yeah.
I probably would have done it in my 20-somethings, but now I'm a little bit older. I appreciate my feet so much. Appreciate so many things. No. Yeah. I used to want to go whitewater rafting, not anymore. I used to want to go parachuting, not anymore.
Yeah.
Walking on fire, I don't know. Maybe if Tony Robbins was there.
Yeah. He NLP'd you. He convinced your subconscious mind you could do this. And it's the power of neurolinguistics. And using that information. So
one of my favorite is Hebb's law. Brain cells that fire together, wire together.
Oh yeah.
I love that.
That's so good.
All right. So give me some of your tips and tricks for navigating an event, how to make an event successful.
Well, first of all, set your expectations for the event. All right, why are we having this event? What do we want from this event? And one of the mistakes I see all the time, especially in the business world, we're having a fundraiser. Okay, and then the board of directors or whoever is going to measure that event, they always just measure on the dollars raised. That is not the right measure of the success of an event.
The impact.
You've got the impact, the people that you reached. The perfect example was with Center for Independent Living. We had ended up having 168 people in the room. 138. Remember, we were pulling tables in at the last minute. You can only plan so much. But 100 of those people had no idea who CIO was before that event.
I didn't know
because they were brought as a guest.
Before you asked me to help out.
Exactly.
I had no idea.
Center for Independent Living, that must be a housing. No, it's a disability resource center. I mean, it's an incredible organization, and I was an inside coach for them, for a year and a half. Loved it. And so the measure was, how many people did we reach? Where did our message go? How much marketing would it take to get 100 people to know who your company is and what they do? So that's a measure. What about the relationships that you built? When we go out and network, many relationships are purely transactional relationships. Every time you are with that person, it's because of you're doing something. They're doing something for you. You're doing something that's transactional. You cannot get the know you, like you, trust you with transactional relationships. It's not going to happen. You've got to find a way to spend time with people that's non-transactional. Your event is that time. There's no nobody's doing business.
Everybody's more relaxed.
You just relax. You sit down. You talk to people. Hey, Tanya, it's so great to see you in this event. You look so great. And talk. We're not. I'm not. It's not transactional. It's relationship building. That's a huge benefit of your event. Even if there's only 20 people in the room, I don't care how many people, spend some time developing that relationship with those people that are important to you that's non-transactional.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good opportunity for that.
That's a great measure for an event.
I love it.
Yeah.
Now, tell me, what is the best way for people to get a hold of you?
Well, don't email me. I mean, not until we have a conversation going on, but really, I'm text message. When I get a text message, just like most people, we live on these darn things and, oh, okay. And then I have immediate responses I can send, but every day I review my text message and make sure that I've addressed all that stuff. That's always the first place I look. This is where I start my morning is, with my tea and this.
Oh, man.
This is where I meditate,
know, right?
Yeah. The dolphins come in and entertain me, and all of that. But anyway, the text message is really the best way to get the fastest response from me.
Okay. And I will put those in the show notes along with all your socials. And thank you again for being with me today. Tell me, what words of wisdom would you like to leave our listeners with?
Well, and I say this a lot, communication is really my thing. I have degrees in communication and finance and stuff. And I find that most people, when they're communicating, they're listening to respond. And I know people have heard that. They're listening to respond. They're not listening to understand. They're thinking about what they're going to say. And so what I propose to people is I say, when you're having a communication with somebody, be listening to them and have 2 questions for them about something they said before you say anything about yourself. 2 questions about them or what they're talking about.
Right.
So now I'm listening to you, and now if I'm thinking about it, I'm listening, I'm processing, I'm thinking about what could I ask you about that? What 2 questions could I come up to ask you about that will continue keeping the attention on you? So that's a powerful tool to make sure that when the first communication course I took, the teacher said, how many mouths do you have? Well, 1. How many ears? Well, 2. Well, your communication should be in that ratio. You should be listening twice as much as you're speaking. And when you review the most powerful communicators in our history, you'll find out they said very little. But because they had listened to people, they knew what to say so that people would hear it, And so that's what the most powerful tip I would give is, listen to understand rather than listening to respond, and have 2 questions for them before you.
I like that.
Say
I knew the first
that.
part. That second part have 2 questions. That's
there you go.
Good. Thank you so much for being here.
No, I appreciate you, and congratulations on this podcast. It's awesome.
Thank you. I love it.
All right, I look forward to meeting everybody out there networking. Bye.